Well, just following on what I was saying about Daniel Andrews, it was 25 years ago that the then president of the Czech Republic, Václav Havel, spoke at our National Press Club 25 years ago. He talked about a crisis of authority from the perspective, Czechoslovakia, of one who'd suffered totalitarianism. Now think of it. As Kevin Andrews said, from the Prime Minister down, quote, the daily media conferences of the Victorian Premier, the possessor of all detail, the bearer of all knowledge, continually blaming the citizenry for the failures of his administration. Well, we ought not to imagine that this isn't leading us somewhere. But of course, to suggest it might be is to be accused of dealing with conspiracies. But from coronavirus, we have seen the growth of state power. And even though in the world there are 104,000 patients with coronavirus who are critical, that represents 0.0013% of the population. Yet leaders are hanging on to this power. I spoke to Maurice Newman about this last year. He made the outstanding point of these leaders, ours included, so-called liberal leaders. I quote Maurice Newman, no doubt they view individual freedom as an optional extra, not an inalienable right, and want their new powers to become a normal part of governing, unquote. Significantly, he went on about these people who are so-called governing. Quote, it was their gross incompetence or deliberate intent which gave them the present commanding heights. First, despite clear evidence of COVID's virulence, the World Health Organization kowtowed to Beijing by playing down the risks of infection. Then, when the spread threatened the capacity of global medical resources, health authorities modelled catastrophic scenarios to frighten citizens into submission and to justify enforceable draconian lockdowns imposed without regard for basic rights or economic cost. Much of the quote-unquote expert advice relied upon has been exposed as politically biased, not scientifically based. Well, back to my point. What is the agenda here? Do we just assume that the liberties and freedoms and economic advantages that we've taken for granted for so long are safe and secure? After all, here we are seeking to impeach an American who's no longer president. And Trump's been vilified from one end of the earth to the other. Coronavirus, well, 0.06% of Americans have died, not from it, but with it. But Trump created 7 million new jobs. The average unemployment rate was lower than that of any administration in the history of America. The unemployment rate for women was the lowest in 70 years. African-American youth unemployment was at an all-time low. African-American poverty had declined to the lowest rate ever recorded. But these successes sit uncomfortably with outfits like the World Economic Forum, whose ranks include people like Prince Charles and Al Gore and that schoolgirl. They're all there, George Soros, Greenpeace, the President of the European Bank, the Secretary-General of the United Nations, the World Economic Forum. Remember it. They say that after COVID, climate action must be top of the agenda. And the forum's founder and executive chairman is a professor, Klaus Schwab, an 82-year-old German economist who is co-author of a book called The Great Reset. 3 big words. To, quote, make society fairer, smarter and greener, and to get humanity off the road to climate catastrophe. A great reset, he calls it, at the book launch last year, to, quote, make the world work with nature rather than exploit the natural world, unquote. If businesses start to prioritise nature, that could add 395 million new jobs globally by 2030, unquote. Make no mistake, the left are in the ascendant. This fellow Schwab has said, quote, the changes we've already seen in response to COVID-19 prove that a reset of our economic and social foundations is possible. Well, it goes without saying that Trump was a major obstacle to all of this, hence the emphasis on a decarbonised economy and talk that, quote, companies should serve all stakeholders, not just shareholders. Is this a threat or is it not? I think we're kidding ourselves if we don't take this seriously. James Delingpole is an English writer, journalist and columnist. He's published novels and political books. He's published articles rejecting the so-called scientific consensus on climate change, and he opposes wind power. He wasn't born with a silver spoon in his mouth. He's the son of a factory owner, but a graduate of Oxford University in English language and literature. He argues we must understand the meaning of the Great Reset and its impact on our civilisation. We've spoken to James before, but he joins us again. James Delingpole, thank you for your time. Much appreciated. I mean, these people are seeking to transform the world economy, aren't they?
Yeah, I think there's a question that a lot of people are asking right now, and you just asked it again, which is, why are they doing this? And the answer is quite simply, this is a coup by the globalist elite. It's happening in your country, it's happening in my country, we've seen it's happened in America. These guys are very serious about their plan, which ultimately is to reduce us to the status of serfs, which of course elites have done throughout the ages. I mean, the Western democracy is actually a relatively uncommon phenomenon, the freedoms we enjoy. We're reverting in a way to the historic norm where a tiny elite controlled the people and crushed their spirit. Yeah. And the World Economic Forum produced a video in 2016 in which this starry-eyed young person said, "Welcome to 2030. I own nothing, I have no privacy, and life has never been better." Well, it doesn't sound like a better life to me. It sounds horrible where we don't own any property.
No,
so
that's right.
Who does own the property?
They've made this point, haven't they? This great reset. There'll be no money, no private property, no democracy. Some big outfit will take over all our debt. All our debt. We'll have no debt, whatever, your credit cards, your bank loans, all that sort of stuff. But in return, you'll have no money, no private property, no democracy. Every key decision, and what you do for a living, how much stuff you consume, as you've said, will be decided by a remote, unaccountable elite. This is not conspiracy. This is what these people are saying.
Yes. It is a conspiracy. It's not a conspiracy theory, though. Right. It's not a conspiracy theory when they're telling you what they're doing, when they're putting out websites, when they're holding an annual conference attended by everyone from President Xi of China to Angela Merkel to President Putin. They're all there. The WEF is not to be discounted. It's a serious organization, and its plan is serious. The only thing we've got going for us is that they are few and we are many. We need to wake up.
Good on you. I mean, Trudeau has said, the Canadian Prime Minister, this pandemic has provided an opportunity for a reset, to reimagine our economic systems that actually address global challenges like extreme poverty, inequality and climate change. I mean, it all sounds innocuous, doesn't it? But it brings us back to this Professor Schwab. I mean, he has said, post-coronavirus, the world must, quote, act jointly and swiftly to revamp all aspects of our societies and economies. Surely, James, we're mad if we don't take heed.
We are mad if we don't take heed, and we have to resist. It's unfortunate. I think we've all enjoyed decades of peace, but this is our World War III. It's just not the World War we expected. It's not a fighting war. It doesn't involve guns and rockets and things. It does involve taking control of our freedoms and grabbing them back from the people who are stealing them from us.
Good on you. Great to talk to you. We'll talk again. Keep up doing the good work. I'd like to think there were more on our side than the other side. I somehow doubt it, but it doesn't stop us fighting the fight, James. Lovely to talk. Keep well.